Rolls a clip.
But when someone is talking about guys simping for a girl, I just don't understand what's wrong with like worshiping a girl. There's nothing wrong with that, okay? Girls deserve to be worshipped. Not saying specifically me, but girls should be worshipped. Simping isn't bad. Simping is king shit, okay? You're a king if you're not afraid to simp.
So, apparently I missed the simp war of 2020. I was just way too focused on other stuff to really pay attention. Actually, I don't really even get on Twitter all that much, so of course I wasn't privy to this, but you know, I learned that there's like this whole kerfluffle of simps on Twitter arguing about Nico Lowell. And it's interesting. I actually already recorded a video about simps, but I need to update it. So that's what this is. And it was really interesting to me that simps are like now a thing. Now Tommy Sotomayor, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Tommy Sotomayor. He's a black YouTuber who talks a great deal about the black community and how incredibly disappointed he is in it, to say the least. But he was the first person I actually ever heard use the word simp. Now, from what I understood, the way what he said was a simp is someone idolizing mediocre, you know, kitty. I can't say the P word because then my video will become unadvertiser friendly, and kind of need these shekels. But someone basically idolizing a mediocre woman, or a woman that isn't really providing any degree of value to him in any particular way, really. Now, of course, this isn't entirely true no matter what you say. The part of not providing value, because to the simp, there is some value to some degree being given out, otherwise he would not be adoring her and slaying her money and all of that, right? Excuse me. But I was thinking about simps for a little while, and I came to an odd conclusion one day. I remember I used to, like most individuals in the manosphere, have quite the disdain for simp and simpery behaviors. And I was thinking about it as to why that was the case. Like, why was I angry at these guys? Like, why do I find their behavior contemptible? Now, there was one reason why I explained exactly why I found their behavior contemptible. And I found it, I wasn't a really big fan of these guys feeding into the egos of clearly mentally deranged women, of clearly mentally destroyed young ladies vying for their attention. For example, a really good example of this would actually be Bianca Devins. She was actually, I made a video about her a little while back ago after she was murdered by, this guy was clearly a simp, but like, I didn't really go back and look at the details of the man Brandon who murdered her, but the thing that I found contemptible about the group of people that she cultivated on her Discord was the fact that she was clearly out of her mind. There was clearly lots of problems with her. And these guys only ever blew smoke up her butt because they wanted the attention of a 16-year-old girl. That behavior is contemptible. But that isn't even the issue that I find lots of people complaining about simps, right? Because if that was the major criticism, then I'd be in total agreement. I'd be like, yeah, that's why I dislike them. Now, what I've been noticing when people criticizing simps is this hilarious two-step. And it just blows my mind, right? Because I see so many people criticizing simps for giving money to women, right? But they always say, like in the same breath, and I've seen this so many times, that it's okay for the girl to get money for being whatever she is. It's like, go ahead, girl. Get your money. You know, if I was a girl, I would do the same thing too. I've heard multiple people who criticize simps say the same thing.
You know, we roast a lot of girls that do OnlyFans and stuff on my channel, but in reality, and I say this in every single video, I say, if I could do the same shit, I would be doing it right now.
That is true. That is true. It's just most people don't seem to understand what that difference is these days, and all I see is simps everywhere, and I find it disgusting. I'm actually more, I'm not actually that angry about the ethos. Like, of course they're going to. You know, they've got all of the options there. This is just the path of least resistance.
She's cringe. She's just a player in the game. We're not here to hate the player, and we're not here to hate the game. We're here to hate the cheerleaders. We are here to hate the simps on the sidelines cheering this on.
Personally, if I had titties, my first instinct would to be to profit off of them. In fact, I would actually want my girlfriend to be a slut online for money. It's just the logical thing to do.
And then somehow, some way, be upset with the simps for giving in the money, when really it's two halves of the same whole, right? Because no matter how you slice it, and this is why I'm not a fan. Oh, there's lots of reasons I'm not a fan of thoughts, but here's one reason why I'm not a fan of thoughts. Because they're a group of individuals who, in any market, are fulfilling market demand. But the problem with the market demand that they're filling is the fact that psychologically it's a huge barrier to obtaining what the individual really needs. Okay, now that sounds like a bunch of fluff. What am I saying? You have a group of women, thoughts, who are charging guys money to see them, sometimes just in their bikini, sometimes just to be lewd, you know, just to imply being naked, right? To compliment them, to maybe talk about their sexual fetishes or whatever a little bit. You have these women preying on lonely men, or men who are married who aren't able to have intimate relations with their own wife. They're preying on men who are desperate for some degree of attention and affection for women, and providing them with little droplets rather than a bottle of water of which they can drink. So what am I saying? I'm saying that these women can never truly be intimate with anyone because they're spread so thin, if they even are attempting to do that, right? Because you've got thousands of people, even if it's just 100, even if it's just 100, it's still too thin. You cannot invest in hundreds of men like that, let alone thousands. You can only pretend that you want them. So you're preying on them, giving you money, giving you attention, giving you all this stuff. And the only thing you provide is just you being naked. And worse still, you provide something that's even more toxic. And that is a tease. That is a reminder that they can't get what they want. And that is awful, because at the very least, no matter how you slice it, in any market, right, you have to cater to what people want. You have to provide them some solution. You have to give them something. Whether it's a food market, you're giving people food, they need food to eat. If it's a snack, you're giving people delicious food to eat. If it's a restaurant, you're giving people delicate food. If it's fast food, you're giving them quickly made food. But marketing, or like providing value, is one of the most important things when it comes to marketing. Now, it might sound like I'm crazy here, but you have to recognize, if we're talking about the exchange of money and the exchange of services, then we are talking about marketing. So if we're talking about thoughts and Simps giving them money, we are talking about marketing. And we also have the analogy of the sexual marketplace anyway, so I'm not the only person who even thinks this anyhow. So when you have in terms of marketing, I find it's interesting that dudes who can criticize Simps are okay with the fact that thoughts are using their mere existence, just the fact that they're just given a sexy body. Some of them may exercise for it, may work out for it, you know. But they use the fact that they're attractive women to prey on lonely men and never give them what they want, never give them what they need, because these men are trapped paying and giving money to a facade of an illusion of a possible relationship that can never occur and never happen. Now, it's interesting that the simp is the one that is contemptible here, and in some ways they really are. Like, they really are. I can give you a great example. I just gave you a good example of some simps that are just so absolutely contemptible. But to paint them all in the same way, that they're all like sniveling, Starscream-esque, sneaky males in the back, because like here's a really contemptible behavior of Simps, so you guys understand. Like, this isn't really a defense of them, but it's more like trying to reframe the conversation, because it just, you know, I'll explain in a second. But here's a really good example of just like some contemptible simp behavior. They love to besmirch other men, as if the only way that they can win is if they bring everyone else down and they look good by comparison. So they love to talk all that good smack about how other men are just whatever. You guys have seen it on the internet, okay? You guys have seen white knights. And then another contemptible behavior I find of simps is if you ever try to criticize a woman, they always jump down your throat to defend her honor as if she's not a grown behind woman. I remember, I've actually had an encounter. I remember way back, there was this one Instagram, what was her name? Amanda Nicole. And she posted a video where she was slamming her rather large posterior upon a cake. And so I made a funny comment. I said, you may as well just start posting porn at this point, because there's no real artistry here. And I actually made a video about this. We actually talked for a little bit before she blocked me. But in that thread when we were talking, it was interesting because like we were just going back and like we weren't like arguing. Well, we were arguing, but we weren't viciously arguing. Like it was. I was actually somewhat impressed before she blocked me. She actually talked to me. She actually had like a counterpoint. Now I think she was wrong, but she didn't like fly off the handle. It was really nice until she blocked me. So the whole point in telling that story is to say that there were simps who were coming in and telling me that I should go away, I should stop looking at her, or just, talking out the mouth, defending her honor, as if she wasn't an adult woman that had her own thoughts and her own opinions and couldn't speak. As if, like, somehow I hardly wasn't even a disagreement. It was a criticism. I was saying, like, if you're going to be this outwardly sexual on Instagram, you may as well just do pornography. And actually, as it turns out, she did. I don't know if it was because of my suggestion or if she just realized she'd get paid more money. But she did just start doing pornography straight up. So, anyhow, my point is that in a civil discussion between a male and a female who disagree, simps will still come in and feel like they have to defend the woman's honor. And you can probably circle this up to lots of different psychological reasons why. They might think that women are genuinely too weak mentally to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. Or, they could be trying to get good boy points. They could be trying to look like they're better than other males. Like I said just a second ago, because that's one of the major things simps love to do. They love to try to make themselves look good in comparison, mostly because, as it comes down to it, the simp is a rather self-loathing creature. They're not particularly happy people, because you either have a simp who hates his maledom and tries his best to avoid toxic masculinity in order to impress females and get their validation and attention, or you have the sniveling, sneaky coward to pretending that they're male feminists who pretend that other men are contemptible when they themselves are actually the viper in the grass waiting to strike out upon the female's kitty cats. I don't know if that analogy made sense, but I'm sure you guys can get it. There's a lot of innuendos in that one. The point that I'm making is that I understand a contempt for simps because I harbor it as well, depending on who it is. But at the same time, I cannot forgive the thought either. I cannot accept the thoughtery. Okay, I can't accept a market like this, because instead of these women doing anything productive with their power, their ability, and their influence, they elect to do nothing. And I know this may not apply, but I'm going to apply it anyway, because I believe that with great power, there must also come great responsibility. And women in general seem to just not hold on to this at all. They don't have this code of honor, this code of conduct. With great power comes great responsibility. And women have great power. Women have so much power over men. It's ridiculous. Even myself, even as I make these YouTube videos, let me tell you something, right? This is going to be a little silly, but I remember, this is when the first time I started, I was a substitute teacher. I first started, and I went to my old high school, because I love that high school, actually, I really do. And I remember I was waiting to be signed in, and I saw this woman. Oh my gosh, I still remember the day I saw her, man. Like, it was as if every single trial, tribulation, error in my life, every pain, everything I suffered had all culminated into this one moment where I gazed my eyes upon her. Everything in my life made all sense to me. Like, it was like this was my destiny right here. I was enlightened when I saw this woman's face. And then when I talked to her, I found out she was married. So I was like, how unfortunate. But here's the thing. I remember one day I was upset about something. I don't even remember what I was upset about, but I was upset and went through first period. Just didn't really even talk to the students, which wasn't good. And so it was second period planning, and I left to go use the bathroom, and I saw her face, and all this woman did was she just smiled and waved at me, and my strength was renewed. That's all she did. She didn't say a word. She just smiled and waved. She just acknowledged my existence, and I was just done. I was powered up. I was like Superman who just went back into into the rays of the sun, and I finished the rest of the day. I was pretty good. That's all that woman did. And women don't even recognize, or when they do recognize it, what do we get? We get thoughts. When women recognize they have this power to like really drive and influence and even help men, a lot of them just decide to do nothing with it. They become thoughts. They become these internet models of these girls who realize that they could get easy money, they can get an easy life by having multiple boyfriends, because that's essentially what it is. You know, that's why when it came to that whole Nico Lowell thing, the reason why a whole bunch of simps were so upset with her when they found out she had a boyfriend is because that is what the nature of simpery is. That's what the simp thought relationship is. Like, she's truly a whore in the sense that she is being paid to be a pseudo girlfriend for these guys, and that is gonna stunt their own development either. Like there are no heroes here, man. Like there's nobody here is virtuous. Nobody here is a hero in the thought simp dichotomy. You know, it doesn't matter if you want to ask, well, which came first, the thought or the simp. It doesn't matter. The point is, they exist in this toxic relationship no matter what. And there should never be any excuse or any okay for thoughts to prey into simps or accept their behavior because they're women or because they can. Like, what kind of silliness is that? No, the whole point of with great power comes great responsibility is that just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. Just because a thought can show her cleavage and get lots of bits and lots of money and lots of stuff doesn't mean she should. Like that is not okay. I don't understand why they get a pass on this. And I've seen this so many times when people are complaining about simps. So many times I've seen guys just be all like, well, I would do it too. And I'm like, well, that doesn't, like, what are you upset about then? You know what I mean? Like you're complaining about simps when you would use them for your own ends if you had a vagina. Like, come on, you know? Like, simps are awful. 100%. They really are. But to have contempt for the simp, that I'm seeing the contempt for the simp doesn't really seem to be through any degree of, like, virtue, but more like, honestly, kind of like, just like grandstanding, I would say. Because most of the criticisms of the simp, it isn't really about how they're a contemptible bunch of individuals who are sniveling and kind of evil. It's more like they're pathetic because they're delusional. And it's like, I mean, yeah, sure, granted, I mean, they are pathetic, but like there's a little bit more going on here than just they're pathetic males paying for a pseudo girlfriend on the internet. There's a lot more than that going on. They're lonely individuals whose growth has been stunted, who can't evolve past where they're stuck at, and now they're preying into a system or a model or a market that's just going to keep them rooted in the same area. Like, these guys are victims as much as the thoughts are probably victim of a crappy home life. Like, everyone here, the thing about villainy, about like this type of contemptible behavior, and I know it sounds melodramatic, but like seriously, I'm being serious here. Like the thing about people who end up doing pretty heinous things, oftentimes there is some kind of history behind it. You know, usually people don't just kind of wake up on Saturday like, I'm just going to go murder a bunch of people because I feel like it. Like, it's not usually what occurs. You know, usually there has to be some kind of event that occurs first, or some string of events, you know, that gets them there. And whether the thought has some history like that, which I'm sure she does, I've talked about it before, and whether the simp also has a long track or history of being alone and whatnot. Truth of the matter is, in order to get to this type of debauchery, there is some pain or some history behind them all. And to me, it just seems rather silly to just focus on how simps are pathetic and meandering, and more kind of focus on how this market in general not only is just a product of just the faux pas sexual revolution that did absolutely nothing for nobody except make us all miserable, but also that is partly where the solution indeed lies, right? And the solution has to rely on the fact that men and women have to recognize not only like the purpose and intent of relationships, and that is you don't use them as validation machines, because at the end of the day, that's where it all comes down to. Like, sex is now used, and I say sex as a topic, not like the actual act itself is as well, but like sexuality between males and females, which is what the thought simp relationship is used as tokens of validation. You know, the thought is validated by dudes paying them money, showering them with compliments and attention, and the simp is validated by having a cute woman pat him on the head and say that he's a good boy. It's all validation, but there's no purpose and function, and there's no end goal to an honest relationship between the males and the females. And that is my ultimate goal. It's always been my ultimate goal. On my channel, is that, you know, instead of accepting that the relationship between males and females is just shattered and broken, you know, for a lot of people, not everyone, but for a lot of people, you shouldn't accept that. We should be working towards trying to figure out some way to fix it. And I think the first step is this recognition of the validation machine that this is. I think no one here is a hero. You know, thoughts should never be accepted, you know, because there's a market for them. And simps shouldn't have to browbeat other men to feel good about themselves. Instead, they should work on loving themselves personally, working on themselves personally, and finding an honest relationship with one individual woman that's going to care about them and love them, rather than take the shortcut because they feel like they're inadequate to obtain that with their own merit. Because that's another thing that it is. It's a shortcut. It's, you know, that if you give her enough money, she's going to pat you on the head at this particular point in time. It feels good at that point in time. You feel vindicated at that point in time because you know it's instant gratification. And that's another thing we could talk about in general. Psychologically, a lot of people are focused on the instant gratification of the modern time here in America or in the Western world, rather than the time and the effort it takes to build something. I mean, every single thing ever, you know, that's advertised is fast, it's easy. Get it, like workout programs are like that. Courses are like that on the internet. It's a lot of fast, a lot of quick, but not a lot of this is going to take some time. You got to grow, you got to invest, you got to evolve mentally and genuinely. And so in conclusion, my whole point is this. Simps are certainly contemptible individuals. I've laid out a few reasons as to why I find them to be contemptible. But they're also victims of circumstance as well. They're the same victims that we all are, you know, individuals who are single or individuals who are in crappy relationships, you know. That is that the relationships between men and women are really unstable and they're really broken, and we're all caught on seeking validation rather than seeking purpose and intention and focusing on function. So I'm going to leave you guys with that, okay? Simps are awful and terrible, certainly. But I think there's a little bit more to them than that, and I think that they're more deserving of sympathy than contempt. That doesn't mean that you accept their behavior, but to be angry at them is a hilarious waste of time. I mean, they're annoying, certainly at best, aggravating at worst, but the contempt that I see people have for them, it's like, I mean, you're not too far from that either, so you might want to chill out there for a second. And the people I say not too far from that are the people who say that they would be thoughts if they had the ability, like that. With that being said, I actually hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Well, you probably didn't, but if you did, man, go and click my button. If you go and click that subscribe button. Comment in the comment box below. As always, you guys have yourselves a great day. I'll see you cool cats soon. Adios.